today we're going to do our very first attempt at making shakshuka, which is a traditional Israeli dish, often served for breakfast. Now, I've never tried this stuff before, but it sounds really good, and we're going to give it a shot. So let's give it a try, see how it turns out. Alright, for this shakshuka, the things we're going to need today, we're going to need 1 red bell pepper, 1 green bell pepper, use about half of a yellow onion, use some garlic. I am going to go probably more than the recipe calls for. I'm going to do about, we'll just do 6 cloves of garlic, 6 fairly large ones. Need a neutral oil of some kind. I like using avocado oil. Going to need a 28-ounce can of whole peeled tomatoes. I like using this brand of San Marzano tomatoes. Big fan of these. Work really well. Then you're also going to need a 6-ounce bag of baby spinach. And then for spices, you're going to need some ground cumin, some paprika, some black pepper, and some salt. And then to add to those things, at the very end, you'll also be adding in 6 whole large eggs. I just have them kind of off screen here a little bit. Try to get them on screen. And then for a garnish, you can use some green onion if you have it on hand, fresh parsley if you have it on hand. I'm going to probably try to do some dried parsley instead, even though typically as a garnish I wouldn't use dried ingredients, but we'll give it a try, see how it goes. This is my first time making this, so let's get started. Alright, so to start off this cooking process, we're going to add about 1 tablespoon of neutral oil, in this case avocado oil, to the pan. Go ahead and spread around a bit. I'm using a 12-inch cast iron skillet. To that, we're going to add our half an onion, cut up into thin strips. Some of it, I guess, didn't get quite as finely done as I wanted to, but it'll break up pretty well once it's in the skillet doing its thing. To that, we're also going to add our red and green peppers, 1 whole pepper each, also sliced fairly thin. We're going to get those sauteed for a while until they get softened. Should take about 5 minutes. Now that that's had a chance to soften a little bit, we're going to add just a little bit more avocado oil. Then we're going to add in our garlic, and I definitely used more than 6 cloves. I probably end up using about 10, but Garlic is one of those things that if you like garlic, it's not going to hurt the flavor at all. You can very easily get away with adding more garlic. Just add as much as you like. You basically just want to stir that around a little bit until you can start to really smell the garlic. And then at that point, you're going to add about 1 tablespoon of paprika and a teaspoon and a half of cumin. And I cannot overstate, do not do too much cumin. If you put more than this, you may end up regretting it, because cumin is very overpowering. Can end up giving kind of a bitter taste to it if you put too much. But that little bit there gives fantastic smell, gives some additional flavor, and it's delicious. Now that it's nice and fragrant, we're going to go ahead and add that can of whole field tomatoes. Along with all the juices that are left in there. You want to kind of break up those tomatoes a bit. Should break apart pretty easily. At this point, go ahead and add a little bit of salt, just a dash. Hi, Future Guy here. One thing I forgot to mention that's actually really important. So when it comes to adding the salt, starting with a pinch is a good idea, but I recommend tasting it after that. See if it is to your liking in terms of the saltiness, because by default, that dash of salt does not make it salty. It is just a very, very mild amount of salt. I recommend tasting it ahead of time. If the dash is not enough for you, add a little bit more until it reaches your satisfaction. Make sure that it is to your liking, because it's very difficult to add the salt in the same sense once you've already got the main cooking phase going, especially once you add the eggs later on. So let's get back to the video. Get that well incorporated. Then you're going to want to cover it up either with a lid or double foil and let that simmer for about 15 minutes. Hi, Future Guy here. I just realized, looking at the recipe again, that I'm actually supposed to leave it uncovered for this part, and I'll cover it at a later step. So, back to the recipe. Alright, so it's been 15 minutes. Now it's time to add that 6 ounces of spinach. And it's going to initially seem like it's basically overflowing, and it really kind of is. In hindsight, maybe I should have used a bigger pan, but as I mix it in, it's going to shrink down quite a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and get that mixed in as best as we can. As it cooks, it will shrink down. In hindsight, probably should have used a bigger pan, but I thought that the 12-inch would probably be sufficient. I wasn't really anticipating how big the spinach, how much room the spinach would take up when it was still fresh. So it's just going to take a little bit, but get that well incorporated, and you basically just want to mix it together until the spinach wilts and shrinks down. Alright, as you can see, the spinach is well incorporated now. Much, much smaller than it was before. So at this point, we're going to start adding those eggs. Now, I've seen different recipes do it different ways, but in this case, we're going to kind of make little holes for the eggs. And then we'll carefully crack them in one at a time. Try to spread that out a little more. Alright, now at this point, this is when we actually want to put the lid on. And we're basically just going to cook it until the whites are cooked, but the yolks are still runny. So we'll give that some time, and we'll come back. Alright, so it's been about 8 or 9 minutes, and it's looking like these eggs are done. So we'll go ahead and turn off the heat on that. And we'll toss on some fresh green onion for that beautiful, beautiful look. And we're going to go ahead and sprinkle on a little bit of black pepper. There we go. Look at that. Alright, so we're going to do a taste test, and full disclosure, this is actually our second time making it, because the first time it ended up not quite salty enough. So, I'll still be including our original reaction at the end of the video, but here, we'll get to go ahead and check out this. So, just take a quick look at that. Look at the eggs and all the beautiful stuff inside, the peppers and onions, green onions on top, spinach, tomatoes. Should be really, really good this time. Good. We did better this time.
It's totally hot. Oh wow, not as good. Like a creaminess from the egg, some tomatoey sweetness. The spinach goes really well with that. That's very good.
All right, so take 2. Let's give this a try again. Let's see first. Hey, we got a runny egg this time. At least mostly runny. But better than last time. Last time it was definitely more cooked. I mean, the yolk is still a little cooked, but it's not too bad. I'm trying to get a little bit of everything in this bite. Really taste all the different flavors this time around. Making sure that we actually had enough salt was excruciatingly important, but man, it's just like you have the tomatoey flavor, and then you have like a little bit of cumin, the paprika, just the right amount of salt to where it's got just a little bit of saltiness, but not like overwhelmingly so. I had halfway contemplated putting some of that chicken tomato bouillon in just to give it a little extra oomph, but I want to keep it as close to authentic as possible, even if it's not actually authentic. And I will say one thing that's kind of funny. Sam the Cooking Guy's recipe, which is where I got this from, the written recipe, he never mentioned when to add the salt or how much salt to add. So when I initially said just do a dash of salt, I was just guessing. But once I actually finally did it, I ended up doing about half a teaspoon of salt, or somewhere between half and 1 teaspoon. It was just kind of, I did it to taste, but it ended up so much better this time. And yeah, this is well worth making. Definitely go for it if you can. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like if you liked this video, subscribe to the channel and share with your friends, and stay tuned for more recipes that, while not necessarily authentic, are always delicious. If that is not salty enough for you, you can add more. If Let me try that again. All right, and so this is our first time actually trying this. Not just first time that I've made it, but the first time we've ever even had this. Looks like the yolk might have gotten a little overcooked, but it should be all right.
Oh, yeah. That was really good. It's hot. You really taste the peppers, kind of like a stuffed pepper taste to them.
Okay.
And tomatoey. And the egg comes through. Yeah, really good.
All right, so let's see how this thing turned out. Should get some egg in there. Looks like some of the yolk got a little overcooked, but I think it'll still be good. That's good. I do think it probably needs a little more salt, but otherwise I think it turned out